Welcome to our deep dive into Carl Sagan's The Demon-Haunted World.
Oh, this is going to be fun.
You know, our listeners, they love Sagan.
They do. It's a great book.
It is.
Yeah.
And they challenged us to pull out the best tools for thinking critically from this book. There really is a defense of science and reason.
It really is. You know, he's not just like throwing facts at you.
Right.
He starts with a story, from his own childhood.
I love that.
About these tiny little figures he saw.
Across the Atlantic, right?
Yeah, dueling with swords across the Atlantic.
Yeah.
And it just shows you, like, how easily we can be tricked.
Especially as kids.
Yeah, how we just see patterns, even where they're not there.
Our imaginations just run wild.
Yeah, and he doesn't dismiss imagination, like he tells another story.
Yeah.
But being captivated by just the scale of numbers.
Right.
Like,
Wow.
even as a child, trying to write out the numbers from 1 to 1,000.
I remember doing that.
It's fascinating, And that fascination with that scale, with that vastness,
Yeah.
it becomes like the foundation for scientific curiosity.
I see that.
He's really showing us that wonder and skepticism,
Yeah.
they aren't mutually exclusive.
Right.
In fact, it's healthy skepticism that allows genuine wonder to flourish.
So we're learning to question.
Yes.
But not to dismiss the possibility of amazing things.
Right, exactly.
Now, Sagan noticed a surge in pseudoscientific beliefs,
Yeah.
particularly in Russia and China.
Oh, yeah.
After these periods of, social and political upheaval,
Makes sense.
he talks about faith healers, claiming to cure AIDS remotely,
Wow.
and Qigong masters manipulating energy fields.
It's interesting,
Yeah.
when traditional structures crumble and people are afraid,
Yeah.
they grasp at anything that promises hope and certainty.
Right.
And it's a pattern, really, that repeats throughout history.
And it's a bit unsettling, especially considering how much information
I know, right?
and misinformation bombards us today.
Yeah.
So how do we cultivate that healthy skepticism to not fall prey to these kinds of claims?
That's where Sagan's central argument comes in.
Okay.
Science, he says, it's like a candle in the dark.
Ooh, I like that.
He's advocating for a way of thinking,
Right.
a method for testing assumptions.
Even when they seem intuitively obvious.
Yes, even when they seem like, well, duh, of course.
It reminds me of that story he tells about the physicist.
Robert W. Wood.
Yes, Robert W. Wood.
With the toast.
Who makes a toast to physics and metaphysics.
Love it.
And then he demonstrates a scientific principle. Right?
Exactly. Highlighting that experimentation
Yes.
is more important than just speculating.
Intuition can be so misleading.
Oh, it can be.
History is full of these obvious ideas
I know, right?
that turned out to be completely wrong.
Like, remember when people thought
Oh, tell me.
that heavier objects fell faster than lighter ones?
Oh, of course.
It took experimentation to prove them wrong.
So the takeaway for our listeners,
Yeah.
don't just trust your gut.
Right.
Test those assumptions.
Test them. Test it.
But how do we even begin to do that in this world
It's tough, right?
of information overload, where so much of it is designed to manipulate our perceptions?
It is. And, Sagan, he introduces this concept of pareidolia.
Pareidolia, yeah.
Which explains why, we see faces in rocks or clouds.
Oh, I see that all the time.
Right. Or even just like random patterns.
Yeah.
Our brains are constantly trying to make sense of the world.
Right.
Even if it means seeing things that aren't really there.
It's like that, that walking stick insect.
Oh, yeah.
It's camouflaged to look like a twig.
Nature itself playing with our perceptions.
No, it really is. It's amazing.
Yeah, we're hardwired to seek patterns.
It seems like it.
Sometimes at the expense of accuracy.
Right. And Sagan, he shares this chilling example of Richard Shaver.
Oh, yeah.
This man who claimed to have, discovered this hidden history of the world.
Oh, wow.
Written in the patterns of rocks on his farm.
That's wild.
And it just highlights how pareidolia, when combined with confirmation bias,
Oh, yeah.
can lead us down some pretty strange paths.
It's true. You see what you want to see, regardless of the evidence.
So how do we protect ourselves from these mental pitfalls?
Well, this is where Sagan's famous baloney detection kit comes in.
Okay, I like that.
It's a set of mental tools to help us sift through the noise.
Right.
And really distinguish between sense and nonsense.
We all need one of those, right?
We do. Think of it as your guide to navigating the information overload of
Yeah.
our digital age.
Let's unpack some of these tools.
Let's do it.
What's the first one we should be aware of?
Well, the first one is independent confirmation.
Okay.
Before you accept anything as truth, seek out multiple sources and verify the information.
So like good journalism.
Exactly. Reliable sources and corroboration are key.
What about the next tool in this kit?
Okay, so Sagan calls it multiple working hypotheses. So instead of clinging to the first explanation that pops into your head, consider a range of possibilities and test each one systematically.
So stay open-minded, explore different angles.
That's it.
What else should we be looking out for?
Look for measurable evidence.
Okay.
Whenever possible.
Right.
Sagan calls this quantification.
Okay.
Vague claims are so easily manipulated.
Yes, they are.
But numbers, they provide a more objective basis for evaluation.
So don't be swayed by fancy words or emotional appeals.
Exactly.
Look for the data.
Look for the data.
That's a great point. It's easy to get swept up in the rhetoric.
Oh, it is.
Is there anything else we should be aware of when evaluating a claim?
One of the most important tools is falsifiability.
Okay.
A valid hypothesis has to be testable.
Right.
And importantly, potentially disprovable.
Ooh, interesting.
If a claim can't be tested, it's not very useful in a scientific sense.
So it's not about proving something right. It's about being open to the possibility that it could be wrong.
Exactly.
That's a crucial distinction.
It is.
It sounds like this baloney detection kit isn't just about debunking nonsense. It's about actively seeking truth.
It is.
Even if it means letting go of cherished beliefs.
That's right.
So embracing the scientific mindset, even when it's uncomfortable.
Even when it's uncomfortable.
But Sagan doesn't stop there.
No, he doesn't.
He also wants to equip us with another set of tools.
He does.
You're talking about logical fallacies. Right?
Yes, those sneaky tricks of the trade that often lead us to faulty conclusions.
Recognizing those fallacies is key to avoiding being misled.
It is.
Especially in debates or when evaluating persuasive arguments.
For sure.
Okay, let's dive into those.
Okay.
Which fallacy should our listeners be most aware of?
Well, let's start with the ad hominem fallacy.
Okay, ad hominem,
A classic
tactic
of attacking the person, making an argument.
Instead of addressing the argument itself,
Exactly.
it's like, dismissing someone's views on climate change.
Right.
Just because they're a politician.
Yeah, just to shut down the conversation.
Right. Without actually engaging with the evidence.
Exactly. It's a distraction.
A distraction.
And Sagan wants us to see right through it.
See right through it.
Yeah.
Okay, so ad hominem, got it.
Got it.
What's next?
So think about those commercials where you've got, like, a celebrity endorsing a product.
Oh, yeah.
That's the
argument from authority?
Yes, the argument from authority in action.
Right.
Just because someone famous says it's great doesn't mean it actually is.
Right. So just because it's coming from someone we admire or respect, we still need to demand evidence.
Absolutely.
And think critically about the claim itself.
Yeah.
What about the appeal to ignorance fallacy? I feel like that one comes up a lot these days.
It does. It's the idea that if something hasn't been proven false, it must be true, or vice versa.
So like saying, well, there's no proof that aliens haven't visited Earth.
Exactly.
So they must have.
Yeah, right.
Sagan points out, though, that just because we lack evidence for something, it doesn't mean it exists.
It's not evidence for its existence.
We can't just fill in the gaps with our assumptions.
Right.
What other fallacies should our listeners be on the lookout for?
Well, one that's particularly relevant in our fast-paced world is the short-term versus long-term fallacy.
Okay.
It's the tendency to prioritize immediate needs over long-term consequences.
Oh, I see that all the time.
I know, right? Think of, like, those politicians who argue that we can't afford social programs.
Yeah.
Because we need to focus on short-term economic gains.
But neglecting things like education and poverty.
Yeah.
They often lead to bigger problems down the road.
It's true. It's like putting a Band-Aid on a wound that needs stitches.
Exactly.
Sagan, he encourages us to think like chess players.
Oh, that's interesting.
Anticipating the long-term consequences of our choices.
Right. So like thinking several moves ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. So short-term versus long-term.
Yeah.
Got it.
He also wants us to be aware of the slippery slope fallacy, which pops up in political debates a lot.
Yeah.
It's the argument that, if we allow A to happen, then B, C, and D will inevitably follow, leading to some disastrous outcome.
So, like, Sagan uses the example of abortion rights.
Oh, yeah. Good way.
Opponents might argue that allowing abortion in the early stages of pregnancy will inevitably lead to the killing of full-term infants.
It's that classic slippery slope argument, and it often relies on fear-mongering.
Right.
The reality is that, most people who support abortion rights, they draw a clear ethical line between a fetus and a newborn infant.
So it's about recognizing that one step doesn't necessarily lead to an extreme outcome.
Exactly. Sagan wants us to see these arguments for what they are.
What are they?
Attempts to shut down debate.
Okay.
And prevent any change from happening.
So we've covered quite a few logical fallacies.
We have.
Are there any others that are particularly important for our listeners to be aware of?
Yes. Let's talk about confusion of correlation and causation.
Okay.
Which is a very common error in reasoning.
What does that mean?
It means just because two things happen together doesn't mean that one causes the other.
Oh, okay.
Sagan provides this humorous example.
Okay, I like humorous examples.
He says, Andean earthquakes are correlated with the closest approaches of the planet Uranus.
Okay.
Therefore, the latter causes the former.
Well, that sounds ridiculous.
It does, right.
But I could see how this fallacy could sneak into everyday thinking.
It's easy to do.
We see two things happening at the same time.
Yeah.
And we assume there must be a connection.
Exactly. Sagan wants us to be more critical.
Okay.
To ask ourselves, is there a plausible mechanism that could explain this causal relationship?
Right.
Or is it just a coincidence?
Like seeing a rise in ice cream sales.
Yeah.
And a rise in shark attacks.
Exactly. They might both happen during the summer.
Right.
But one doesn't cause the other.
That's a great example.
It is.
It's a reminder that we need to be careful about jumping to conclusions.
We do.
What about stereotypes?
Oh, interesting.
How do they fit into Sagan's framework of critical thinking?
Well, Sagan connects stereotyping to intellectual laziness.
Okay.
It's easier to rely on oversimplified generalizations about groups of people than to actually engage with individuals as complex human beings.
I could see that.
Yeah, it takes effort to get to know someone.
It does.
To understand their unique qualities and experiences.
It's much easier to just put them in a box.
It is, and it's not just about laziness.
Right.
Stereotypes can be used to justify discrimination and oppression.
Oh, yeah.
Sagan points out how women were historically excluded from science.
Right.
Based on the belief that they were intellectually inferior to men.
It's a stark reminder that stereotypes can have real-world consequences.
They do.
They perpetuate harmful biases and prevent individuals from reaching their full potential.
Absolutely. Sagan wants us to challenge our assumptions.
Okay.
To be open to new evidence.
Yeah.
And to recognize the individuality of each person.
And he also tackles the stereotypes about scientists themselves.
He does.
He points out how they're often portrayed as like nerds, socially inept, obsessed with obscure subjects.
Right. But then he introduces us to this delightful story of James Clerk Maxwell.
Oh, tell me about him.
The brilliant physicist who helped pave the way for our understanding of electromagnetism and light.
Okay.
And he was nicknamed Dafty as a child because of his insatiable curiosity.
I love that.
He was fascinated by everything. Maxwell's story challenges the stereotype of the boring, emotionless scientist.
So he was like a playful, inquisitive soul.
He was, driven by this deep desire to understand how the world works.
It's a reminder that science is driven by curiosity.
It is.
By a sense of wonder. And by the joy of discovery.
Yes.
It's not just about memorizing facts.
Yeah.
It's about asking questions and seeking answers.
Exactly.
Speaking of which, Sagan seems to place a lot of emphasis on the importance of science literacy.
He does.
What exactly does he mean by that?
Well, he argues that understanding science is not just about knowing scientific facts.
Okay.
But it's about understanding the scientific method.
Okay, the process.
Yes, it's about a way of thinking.
Okay.
A way of approaching the world with curiosity and skepticism.
Right.
And he believes this is essential for navigating the complexities of our modern world.
So it's not just about knowing the answers.
No.
It's about knowing how to ask the right question.
Exactly.
But how does this connect to our everyday lives?
Well, Sagan links science literacy back to our democracy.
Oh, interesting.
He argues that an informed citizenry is essential for making sound decisions about the future.
Right.
We need to be able to critically evaluate information, weigh evidence, and understand the potential consequences of our choices.
And he's particularly critical of the media's role.
He is.
In promoting pseudoscience and sensationalism.
Right.
While neglecting real science.
It's true. We're bombarded with so much information these days.
We are.
And it's not always easy to separate fact from fiction.
It's almost as if we're drowning in information,
Yeah.
but starving for wisdom.
That's a powerful way to put it.
And Sagan sees this as a real threat to our democracy.
He does.
He wants us to be more discerning consumers of information.
Absolutely.
To demand more from our media.
Yeah.
And to actively seek out sources that are committed to accuracy and critical thinking.
He's calling for a cultural shift, isn't he?
It sounds like it.
A shift toward valuing knowledge and critical thinking.
Yeah.
Over entertainment and instant gratification.
That seems like a pretty tall order.
It is.
How does he propose we actually achieve this?
Well, he offers several suggestions.
Okay.
One is to focus on the wonder and excitement of science.
And to make it fun and engaging for learners of all ages.
So, like, making it accessible.
Yeah. He was a big believer in hands-on learning.
Right, like those science museums where kids can experiment, explore scientific principles through play.
They're learning without even realizing it.
It's brilliant.
It is. Sagan also advocates for improving science education in schools.
Okay.
He criticizes the way science is often taught.
Yeah.
In this dry, rote learning manner.
Right.
That focuses on memorizing facts.
Yeah.
Rather than understanding concepts and applying critical thinking skills.
Yeah, he shares this great story about 2 volunteer science teachers.
Oh, yeah.
In his hometown. Who were just determined to bring the magic of science to kids.
I'd love that.
Who didn't have access to the same opportunities as their more privileged peer.
It's an inspiring example of grassroots activism in education.
And it led to the creation of this wonderful science center in Ithaca, New York.
It did.
Built entirely by community volunteers. It's amazing.
It's a testament to the power of community engagement.
It is.
And the shared belief that science education is crucial for a thriving society.
It is.
So it's about fostering a love of science, a way of thinking that empowers us to be more informed citizens and to live more meaningful lives.
Absolutely.
But Sagan's vision goes beyond just debunking pseudoscience.
It does.
And promoting science literacy.
Right.
He also talks about the importance of standing up for reason and evidence.
He does.
Even when it's unpopular.
Even when it's unpopular.
He discusses these historical figures who challenged the status quo.
Oh.
Like Friedrich von Spee, a Jesuit priest, who bravely spoke out against the witch hunts.
Wow.
In 17th century Germany.
A brave man.
Von Spee risked his own life to expose the cruelty and injustice of the witch trials.
Yeah.
Even those in power were determined to silence him.
It's a chilling reminder
of
how easily fear and superstition can be exploited to justify violence and oppression.
And Sagan draws a direct line.
He does.
From the witch hunts to modern-day examples of pseudoscience and the erosion of critical thinking, he sees the same patterns of fear, ignorance, and the abuse of power at play.
It's a pattern throughout history, unfortunately.
He's calling on all of us to be vigilant defenders of reason, to speak out against injustice, and to never take our freedoms for granted.
We can't.
It's a powerful message.
It is.
But I wonder, how do we balance the skepticism with open-mindedness?
That's a great question.
Isn't there a risk of becoming too cynical?
Yeah.
Too closed off to new ideas?
You know, that's a great question.
Yeah.
And it gets to the heart of what makes Sagan's approach so valuable.
Okay.
He doesn't advocate for blind faith. Or blind skepticism.
Okay.
He promotes what he calls balanced skepticism.
Balanced skepticism.
Yeah, a mindset that is both critical and open to new possibilities.
So it's not about shutting down all unconventional ideas.
No.
But about approaching them with a healthy dose of critical thinking.
That's right. Exactly.
Like he's encouraging us to walk this tightrope between healthy skepticism and open-mindedness.
It is a balancing act.
How do we know when to question?
Right.
And when to embrace new ideas?
That's the art of critical thinking.
Right.
And it takes practice.
It does.
You know, Sagan reminds us that there are still mysteries in the universe.
Of course.
Things we don't understand.
Yeah.
He doesn't want us to become so cynical that we dismiss anything that challenges our current understanding.
So demanding evidence.
Yes.
But also acknowledging the limits of our current knowledge.
Exactly.
It's almost like that scene in The Wizard of Oz.
Oh, yeah.
Where Toto pulls back the curtain
to
reveal the man behind the great and powerful Oz.
We should always question authority.
Right.
And look behind the curtain.
But Sagan also reminds us that the world is full of genuine wonders.
It is.
Things that become even more awe-inspiring.
Right.
Once we understand the science behind them.
It's true.
like looking at the sun.
Okay.
Some might see it as a golden coin or imagine angels dancing in its rays.
Sure.
But Sagan sees something even more extraordinary.
He does.
He sees this giant star.
1,000,000 times the size of Earth.
Wow.
Where hydrogen atoms are fusing together to release the energy that sustains all life on our planet.
It's amazing.
It is a cosmic furnace.
A source of both light and life.
Yes.
And understanding the science behind it makes it even more beautiful.
I think so.
More awe-inspiring.
It deepens the mystery.
It's like the world is suddenly bursting with hidden meaning.
I love that.
That's the beauty of Sagan's approach.
Yeah.
He wants to expand our sense of wonder.
Not diminish it.
Not diminish it, yeah.
He sees science as a lens.
Yeah.
That reveals both the beauty and the complexity of the universe.
It makes me think of that famous Sagan quote.
Which one?
We are made of star stuff.
Oh, yeah.
What a beautiful reminder that we're connected to the cosmos.
We are.
Part of something vast and ancient and mysterious.
So true.
And that connection should inspire us to be curious, to explore, to learn, to question.
To keep searching.
Can never stop seeking truth.
Absolutely.
But this brings up another important question.
Okay.
How do we reconcile this scientific worldview with the very human need for meaning and purpose?
That's a good question.
Can science really address those deeper existential questions?
It's something a lot of people grapple with.
Yeah, science seems to explain the how, but what about the why?
You've hit on a profound point.
Yeah.
And Sagan doesn't shy away from this challenge.
He doesn't.
No, he acknowledges that science doesn't have all the answers.
Right.
There are still mysteries beyond our current understanding.
But he doesn't see this as a reason to retreat into superstition or dogma.
He doesn't. Absolutely not. He sees it as an invitation to keep searching. To keep exploring.
To keep asking those questions.
He encourages us to find meaning and purpose in the pursuit of knowledge itself.
Okay.
In the awe-inspiring beauty and complexity of the universe.
It's not about having all the answers.
No.
It's about the journey of discovery.
Yes.
About embracing the mystery.
I like that.
Yeah.
And it's not just about intellectual curiosity. It's about our ethical responsibility to use our knowledge wisely.
I see that.
We need to create a better future for ourselves and for generations to come.
Sagan was a passionate advocate.
He was.
For peace and environmentalism.
Yes.
He saw science as a tool for solving global problems and creating a more just and sustainable world.
He believed that the very skills he outlines in The Demon-Haunted World, those tools of critical thinking, are essential for addressing the challenges we face as a species.
So we need that toolkit.
We do.
To tackle these big issues.
Yeah, he saw the erosion of critical thinking as a threat not only to our individual well-being, but to the future of humanity.
So it's a call to action, isn't it?
It is.
We can't just passively accept what we're told.
No.
We need to engage, question, and think critically.
We do.
It's been an amazing journey exploring the demon-haunted world.
It has.
We've uncovered so many valuable insights.
We have.
And I feel like I'm walking away with a whole new set of tools for navigating this complex world.
And what's so remarkable is that Sagan doesn't just give us tools. He gives us a vision. A sense of hope and purpose rooted in the pursuit of knowledge.
I love that.
And the interconnectedness of all things.
So he invites us to be active participants in this grand adventure of science.
He does.
To explore the universe with open minds.
Yes.
And critical hearts.
Critical hearts, I love that.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
yeah,
we leave you, the listener, with a few questions to ponder. Where do you see opportunities to apply Sagan's tools in your own life? What mysteries are you curious to explore?
Good question.
What role do you want to play in building a more rational and enlightened world?
Think about it.
Keep looking up, keep questioning, and keep wondering.
That's it.
As Sagan would remind us,
yes,
the universe is vast and full of mysteries waiting to be uncovered.
It is.
The adventure is just beginning.
Loved this video? Smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on future content. And don't forget to order the book. Link below.